Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Career Diaries by Elemed, the podcast dedicated to talking about careers in the medtech industry. And today I'm super excited to be joined by Carolina Aguilar. Carolina, so I'm looking at your LinkedIn job title. You're the CEO, co-founder, and board director of INBRAIN Neuroelectronics. That's a mouthful. Thank you for joining us on the show. Tell me a little bit more. What's the difference between CEO, co-founder, and board director?
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for having me here, first of all. And I'll explain you very easily because, I was privileged to be co-founder. This means I was there at the constitution of the company, signing the papers of such constitution. So that makes it really interesting because you are there from the very beginning on the navigation of the company. And then I was actually asked to lead that strategy and that execution. So that's my CEO hat, and to make sure that we had a formidable team actually making it happen. And when it comes to being board director, well, I'm just appointed as one of the directors representing the company at the board level. So actually being part of the discussion and the decisions that we have to take when it comes to strategy and some of the operational aspects. That's it.
And well, that's a lot. It's one of the standard things of being in a startup that you're wearing lots and lots of hats. But no, I really am excited to have you on the show because I think we're gonna talk about some really interesting topics today. Obviously, your career history, but I'd love to also learn about this concept of building winning teams because I'm all about recruitment. So let's kind of go all the way back, Carola. I noticed that you've got a PhD.
Not yet, by the way.
Not yet. Okay, where are we with that?
No, so I have half of the PhD. So I have a coursework, but I never took the time to do the final research, which I kind of left it part for my hobby upon retirement because there were so many things happening in my life that it was just simply hard to take that time to dedicate to this particular purpose. But I do have half of it.
Okay. And I think that's really interesting as well, that you took that decision to say, hey, I'm gonna stop and prioritize and come back to that later in life. But I was particularly interested that you studied neuromarketing.
Yes.
So what is that?
Well, I've been always very intrigued by the brain. So you can see also by the company we're leading. This happened really, really early on my life, not even my career. I've been always very curious. I've been an adventurer. I'm an adventurer. I need that adrenaline that new challenges bring. And the brain is my biggest challenge. Mm-hmm. So neuromarketing is a specialty of marketing that actually looks at the brain to actually get answers about decisions and behaviors. Mm-hmm. Usually, when you ask people through a survey to understand what they like, what they don't like, mm-hmm. As many books say, there's one very interesting called biology. Actually, we lie to ourselves. Our brain never lies. It's our behaviors that lie. So when answering a marketing survey, you might actually answer something that is actually not true. It's something you believe, but probably something you don't do. When you ask people that smoke if they will stop smoking, they always say yes. But, the reality is that it's very difficult for them to smoke. And in some cases, even with this nasty advertisement, they smoke more, right?
Right.
However, when you do a functional MRI, so you do an MRI to someone and you look at the areas where the brain activates upon certain signals, you see the reality. It's very difficult. And I think it's a specialty that needs to be perfectioned because we are not there on understanding the brain. But actually, you can, through some techniques, look at the brain and get better truths than if you ask the individual. So that's why I started being curious and exploring these techniques to see if we could learn more about the brain.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. That's really interesting. So it's about kind of studying actual the data as opposed to just people's perceptions and the results from people saying what they think that they would do. That absolutely makes sense. I mean, I think we've all got the friend that says that they would do something, but you never see that in practice, that they're actually doing it, right? So let's go all the way back in your career. Where did it all start?
Yeah. Look, it was never super well planned, in the sense that I knew the general ideas. I knew what I didn't want to be. And I knew I wanted to study the brain. So I definitely went for courseworks and paths that would take me there. So I went to the States to do neurotoxicology and get deeper into that. And when I came back from the States, I actually wanted to work for a neuro something company, right? But there was not a lot. So I ended up working in cosmetics. And this is how life takes you, right, to places. And it was actually incredible because they asked me to be country manager of this Greek company that wanted to introduce the brand in Spain. And I had never done that. So I said, I'm going to ruin your company because I've been injecting mice and doing brain stuff. And they said, there's something, we trust you, just do it, right? I said, okay, I'll try my best. But, this was incredible on my career because being in consumer goods, I understood what is to be a customer and how to better serve those customers and their customer experience. And now this is critical to do patient-related models, right? Really understanding the patient is much more important than understanding what the customer wants for their face, right? Mm-hmm. But consumer good actually really does it. Mm-hmm. So I spent a couple of years there, and then I understood that I wanted to come back to the brain. And through a course, I met someone that connected me to Medtronic, and I saw it was incredible. So I ended up in Medtronic Spain, and then in Europe, and then global work for Medtronic, and now here. So this is kind of it all happened.
Yeah, and so you did about 13 years at Medtronic, is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. And Medtronic, for anybody listening who doesn't know Medtronic, I'll be super surprised because they are essentially kind of the Apple of the medtech industry, right? They're kind of, the gold standard. If you kind of reflect back on your time at Medtronic, what are some of like the biggest learnings or the biggest moments that jump out at you when you reflect back?
Well, I love Medtronic and I will always love Medtronic. It was very difficult to separate from Medtronic. So I will say that the most profound thing that has stuck with me is this patient centricity that actually started from the founder of Medtronic background. So thinking patients first, and that level of integrity that gives you, it is something you cannot shake off, fortunately, right? That it is very, very important and stays with you always. And then linked to that is all the integrity and the quality that you need to breathe in order to serve such a population of patients, right? We used to say in Medtronic, quality starts with me, right? So we had all these mantras that I think stay with you. And so patient centricity, quality, and integrity, even when it means not to get some kind of businesses, right? We've been in moments where it was difficult and there were blurry lines. And of course, integrity tells you very clear where you have to go and where you don't have to go. So that compass, it is very, very important. And then the last piece is true leadership. So there is an incredible amount of true leaders with a very incredible true north that is always an example, especially at my age. I was 29 years old, I think, when I came into Medtronic. So you have this big presence and big leadership that impacts you tremendously and that you put up there like role models. So it really helps you in guiding your own career.
So what do you mean specifically by true leadership?
Well, it's this combination of balanced leaders, right? Balance in the sense that they have a stable working life and a stable family life, right? There's everything in Medtronic, but the leaders that I consider true leaders in Medtronic are those balanced people that knew the importance of being or doing a good job at both levels, and then lead the company with an incredible vision, right? I mean, that strategic vision of taking leapfrog steps and not incremental steps, and really transforming things and not being afraid of doing things that nobody have done, is something that I always admire. And of course, behind that strategy was that level of execution that you need, and that gathering of great teams to actually make it possible, right? So having seen that, and by the way, I always have with me this page about can't do and can do attitudes. Really, leaders were always on the right column, on the can do attitude. And that is always that, again, it stays with you, and also that you get addicted to. So then you cannot go back to poor leadership.
Interesting. So coming onto the two attitude things. So you said there's the can't attitude and the can do attitude. It doesn't sound as good when I say it in my accent, because it can't and can sound really different. But give me an example of how, make that real for me.
Yeah, I will just read it, right? I mean, on the can attitude, which is on the left column, sometimes it's like we say, it will never fly. I tried already, it will never fly. On the right column, on the can-do attitude, is like, well, we'll never know until we try, right? So really thinking that everything is possible, and that, it's about open that possibility for that to happen. And then, of course, we evaluate if it worked and didn't work and do something better. But it is about a positive, constructive attitude that needs to be contagious, and that needs to be part of the team dynamics.
Yeah, that must be so important, because it's also asking a question, isn't it? That by asking a question rather than making a statement, you naturally start to receive back solutions. So like, how can we do this? What do we need to make this happen? As opposed to like, is it possible? And I think that's something that's really, really powerful. I love that. I want you to share that with me, because that's something that I want to share with the network. So if we look at your career in Medtronic, you came in as a leader, or into what role?
I was a product and market development manager.
Okay. Yeah. And at the end, you were leading a business unit, right?
At the end, so in Neuro, I was head, so I was director of Europe in Deep Brain Stimulation, and I also did global commercialization, because sometimes it's not very politically correct to say this, but I actually had the fortune to have a GM, a general manager, that was not from the US, but was managing the business in the US. And he recognized the value of people that is more exposed to really global dynamics, right? Sometimes in the US is so big, and it's so much part of the business that US already consumes people, right? When you have to deal with all the dynamics of such a huge market, including Latin America, right? So from Europe, we kind of have all these different countries, all these different perspectives you have to understand. Plus, we are closest to Asia and Middle East. So I guess they trust me to actually translate all that diversity and work with the US team in a way that we could do true global commercialization, and not just translate US brochures into China, right? Really localized. We call it localization. So thinking global but acting local. So yes, I did that. And then my last job was actually global director of this first value-based healthcare model on diabetes care, cloud care and payment per outcomes.
And so talk me through your leadership journey, because that's something that I can see very clearly just looking at your LinkedIn profile, and you seem to be such an inspiring leader, and now you're CEO of a startup company, but you come across as very polished and very experienced, but obviously at the beginning it wouldn't have been like that, right? So talk me through some of the biggest learnings on your leadership journey.
Yeah. So first of all, I have so much to learn. I see it every day. I mean, looking at LinkedIn is my book. I mean, I have also a lot of books on my pile, but at night, I look at all these leaders doing amazing things and transforming the world with such an inspiring attitudes that I feel so small and of course humble. But I learned many things. I mean, diversity, I learned is key. And diverse teams make better decisions 73% of their time when they are truly diverse. So it is harder. It is much harder to have diverse teams because definitely you have a lot more arguments and discussions and different points of view. So I think you get to a much better place, but it takes longer to get there. Mm-hmm. But it's totally worth. So diversity has been key. And being decisive as a woman. I doubt so many times about myself. And then when I ask other people, we all need mentors. And I was very grateful that I was given that advice very early in my career to actually get mentors. So once I got several amazing mentors in my career. And at the beginning, they were all males. And I learned a lot about them. And really, it was very interesting. But then one time I asked Kathy Cargill, who was the vice president of reimbursement and regulatory affairs. She asked me to have lunch together, and she asked me, "Do you have a mentor?" I was like, "Yes." This and this. Is like, "Oh, but they are all males." And I was like, "Yes." It's like, "I think you need a woman too." And she offered me to be my mentor from the female perspective, and it was an amazing idea because thinking processes are different, and the things that male and women in some cases analyze and how they are analyzed is different. So I got to really understand different perspectives. So again, diversity from the whole big world, but also from the gender perspective has taught me a lot, and have many episodes where I realized, how analyzing these perspectives gives you more confidence to actually ask what you think you deserve, or to explore areas that probably don't exist and you have to create, and things like that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So coming back to the idea of diversity being part of the formula to building winning teams, how do you go about? I mean, this is very topical as well right now, and it's a question that I think a lot of people, ask. They know that diversity is important, but then maybe they don't receive varied shortlists, or they seem to, always go back into the same talent pool. How do you actually ensure that you are building diverse teams?
Yeah. So usually you tend to hire someone that is like you because you like them more, right? You see on them someone that is like you, and we tend to like ourselves. So when you start connecting really quickly with someone, in my case, is extroverted, is curious, adventurous, I like these kind of people. Now, when I start talking to an introvert that doesn't like, social events, that is super, that has a very introspective, reflective period, that is sometimes more negative at the beginning because they need to process, then I'm shocked, right? Then I don't connect quickly. It takes time, but I know this is the right way to go, because these people are going to see things that I probably don't see. They are going to see more details. They are going to complement me and the team, right? So it is diversity in terms of personalities, I think. So, of course. And then there's this other plethora of diversity items like gender and so on. But I think personalities are very important. And of course, there's people you never connect with, but that is another topic that we need time to discuss.
So I think it's this concept as well of diversity of thought, as well as diversity of experiences as well. Like I was speaking to somebody the other day that was talking about problem solving, and really, truly, if you bring somebody that has totally different experiences, has worked for totally different types of companies or different industry or something like that, and you show them a problem without all the filters of what you already have experienced, sometimes they come up with a totally different solution that is even better than the one that you would have come up with. And it's great to have those people around the table sometimes, you know, and also hiring the people that will say no to you. There's 100%, as you said, like very often people make hiring decisions based purely on, well, not purely on, but a lot on gut feeling, you know, the chemistry fit. And very often it's that chemistry piece is, as you said, is that person like me? Do we bounce off of each other? Well, then you're probably similar personalities, but actually understanding, okay, well, for this role, what do I need? You know, and really making sure that you're making that match and not building a team of highly big picture thinkers, extroverts, because then nobody's actually going to execute and see the detail. That's such a great point. Okay, so what else is part of the formula to building winning teams?
Well, this can-do attitude, right? Not only you need different perspectives, different experiences, different personalities, but there has to be a can-do attitude. Building startups is super hard. Building corporates is also hard. You know, my mom always told me, people can elevate your company or destroy your company. It's all about people, right? So that can-do attitude, that team of positive fighters, in the sense that, you know, transformational fighters that will never get stopped until they make it, is what you need, right? Because there's going to be problems along the way, a hell of a problem wave, right? I mean, that is a given. So it's part of the equation, right? But how you deal with those and what attitude do you project for the team, it is very important. And connected to that are values. I think people need to feel comfortable with the organization they are aligning their lives with, right? I mean, that meaningful work and those values on that work need to be reflected and need to be chosen by the team, or at least adopted if you come later on the process. It needs to be aligned with who you are, or at least you should be able to align the majority of those values with the purpose. So I think these three pieces are really, really important. And of course, there is also an execution piece always, right? I mean, diversity brings different thinking perspectives, and that enriches the strategy. So usually strategies get richer and decisions get better, but then you have to execute. And of course, building processes and dynamics to arrive to where you want to go is important. I always say structure drives behavior, behavior drives events, right? So you have to have a super performer team, but you have to also guide that team to actually perform, right? And whatever you put in the middle, it's going to drive different outputs.
So in terms of like where you are right now with INBRAIN, you spoke a lot about values, which is, I think, are just so important for a company, and it's something that we did here at Elemed recently, actually, because also I feel like you don't just pick values out of the air and say, okay, these are our values, but actually it's like, who are we? And we went through this whole exercise to really filter down, you know, it's not just like, what are my values as the CEO of the company, but it's like, what are the team's values, and then where do we have convergence, and then you have to make them real as well. So it's like that word, you know, building trust, for example, it means different things to different people in terms of what that actually looks like. So it's really important to have those really as the essence of your company, and as you said, that drives your purpose. So my question for you is, talk to me about the purpose of INBRAIN and the values.
Yeah, so I'm actually looking for something that we did last week. So we are building these values as we speak, right? And our mission is decoding brain signals into medical solutions, right? So it's about how we are going to detect biomarkers in the brain that we are going to translate into a treatment that has outcomes that matter to patients, right? And to get there, there's a long way, because we are actually working with a new material that is called graphene that has not arrived to the market. So graphene, I mean, there were two researchers that got the Nobel Prize in 2010. In 2013, the graphene flagship put €1 billion to bring graphene to market. So it's a very interesting story, but the fact is that graphene has not been, let's say, on the brain of a person yet, right? So we have the challenge of the material, and we have the challenge of how are we going to configure all that system so we are superior when decoding these brain signals into medical solutions. So we need a set of values that get us there, right? And we are now working on it as we speak with the team. So we have also a partner that is guiding us on this exercise. But one of the things that we picked, and again, the exercise is not finalized, but it's we start discussing this, is first a meaningful work. So that we have it, we have cleared it in the sense that we know that what we are doing is meaningful and is going to tremendously help patients, right? We know we need excellence. So as we said, quality, everything that we are doing needs to be done with a degree of excellence. And we even have the definitions, right? The pursuit of the highest level of optimal performance, in all levels, right? So we have to demand ourselves that excellence to get there. Diversity is also part of this. We know, as we are discussing, that to make better decisions, we need a diverse team. And leadership, of course, And the last, I'm talking about the top 5, is happiness.
Interesting.
And it has been super debated if it should be there or not. But this is a long journey, right? I mean, it could be 5, 10, but it could be a lifetime. And we want to come to work to a meaningful place, driven by excellence, where we are happy. So we are also now discussing how are we going to translate all that into behaviors to make INBRAIN the best place to work.
So if somebody was going to join INBRAIN, because I know that you're growing right now, what could they expect in terms of what is it really like to work in a startup company that's doing something that the market has never seen before, with 15 people right now?
Well, right now we are a cloud company as well, like many people, right? We start already as a cloud company. Our first funding came in June, so in the middle of the pandemic.
Wow.
So we start online from the very beginning, and we had to find ways to connect with each other. So we have virtual coffee breaks. We have bell moments to celebrate the daily wins. We have these journeys, team journey, we call it, which is this journey together with a coach to actually build the foundations of a great company that we all feel in agreement with. And that is, let's say, the foundation. But then there is also supported by extremely knowledge and inspiring people, right? We have, if I talk about Jose, the founder is really a true leader, humble, service leader. But every time you talk to him, you come out with 10 times more energy than when you start. You have Michel Decré. He's a Japanese tea master, right? Like certified in Japan. So you have this person that has an incredible knowledge about film technology and all the technical aspects, but you have these lunch meditations, and you have this other part of Michelle that is just great for balance. And of course, Bert. I guess this diversity is what bring a lot of value. We are now bringing more people from other regions, from all over the world. So we have people, Greek people, one from Panama, one from Chile, 2 Dutch, Spanish. You name it. It's all over when it comes to diversity. We have little women. We need more. So I will really like to call that female talent to take risk and take that step and jump, because what we are doing is quite transformational.
It's really exciting, listening to you speak and listening to what you're building. Do you ever doubt yourself? Like, do you ever think like, wow, where am I on this journey? Like, I don't know if I'm going to make it, or do you ever kind of wake up one day and think like, whoa, this is really too much?
Oh yeah, of course, many times. But I think this is what keeps me improving, right? I mean, that self-doubt is what always have made me explore, read more, connect more with people, learn more to actually overcome all those doubts, right? And I wish and I want to keep on doubting about myself and what I'm doing, because I've been always coming with stronger answers for myself, right? So absolutely, and that's why it's important to have mentors as well, because we don't have all the answers, and it's healthy. I mean, books. Come on, and there's so many smart people that have written an incredible amount of smart thought processes, right? And if we don't discover them, we don't improve as well. So absolutely.
I think it's really important as well to kind of like, I really appreciate you saying that, because I know that so often there are people out there that doubt themselves and they feel bad for doubting, or they feel bad for that small hesitation. And it's something that's truly human. And it's great to see that you're actually able to leverage that into something much more powerful and more productive. You speak a lot. You're obviously somebody that's very well read. So I have a couple of questions actually. So what should everyone read right now? What is your go-to book that you recommend?
Wow, it's so difficult. I read a lot of brain stuff. I don't know if that helps, but I love a book called Thinking Fast and Slow by Kahneman.
Okay.
Because it teaches you about your cognitive bias and how your brain has two systems, like the quick ones, it's kind of our reptile brain that has been coded to take fast decisions with limited amount of data, and system 2, which is that more slow process that you need to activate when you are making important decisions that probably need more reflection. And in many cases, and with the amount of information we have right now in the news and the fake news and all that, we tend to live with the system 1 activated all the time, right? Taking fast decisions, going really fast in life. And sometimes we are trapped in these cognitive biases, and we just see what people want us to see or what media wants us to think. So I think being aware that there are two systems and that you decide how to use them is very, very critical for a well life lived. That is not, you are not like a sheep, right?
Yeah, I think that curiosity is something that you refer back to all the time, and kind of asking those questions and reflecting as well on not only other people's behaviors, but also on your behaviors. So I with universal truths, that's one that I'm trying to catch myself out on all the time now. So like, when you make a statement, is it a statement based in some sort of bias, like, all people say this, or all people, and normally that's because you've had a certain experience of it that applies some certain filters, and so you have to kind of catch yourself out on that. Why did I say that? Which is a really interesting exercise to even do on yourself. The other thing that you mentioned that yeah, go on. Sorry.
No, and that's why doubting of oneself is very important, right? I mean, I think history has praised too much overconfidence. And people that felt confidence were associated with good leaders. Mm-hmm. And in many cases, these good leaders have been going with the system 1 activated, just, giving data points to people and manipulating thinking processes based on these cognitive biases. So that's why it's very important to doubt, to analyze yourself and your self-lies that you tell to yourself just because you want to believe certain things, and really pause and see how you can get better and beyond all that clogged environment, right? I mean, there is a higher level of thinking, I think, that comes when you actually hesitate or at least reflect and want to do better. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I think that's such an important and interesting point that you make, because pace is great, and having that pace when it comes to decision making, it's, as you said, like making fast, decisive decisions, is seen quite often to be, a good thing. But equally, some of those decisions, how can you possibly have considered all the elements if you're just making a super fast decision? And sometimes they do need a little bit more time to reflect. How do you differentiate between, like, I need to make a quick decision now? What if you're under time pressure, but you feel that you need more time? How do you go about doing that?
I was reading a book last night that talked about how we evaluate decisions, and sometimes we evaluate decisions based on the cause, whereas sometimes we shouldn't look at the cause or the outcome. Sorry, the outcome, right? I mean, when you take a decision, usually you make the best decision for that moment, and it's usually the best thing you could do in that particular time. And of course, the outcome comes later. And we tend to associate both, and sometimes we shouldn't. It is a very difficult question. I guess it's training, right? If you really start using your system 1 and your system 2 and trained to give a space to system 2, then when you have quick decisions to make, it's like a AI algorithm. You're kind of trained to use the right elements, right? Whereas if you just use your system 1, you also get trained to do these fast and not sometimes smart decisions. So I guess it's coming from the self-doubt, which is
really strong.
What makes us stop. Yeah.
So you're obviously also somebody who's like really inspired, and I thought it was great that you said, that you sometimes you're scrolling LinkedIn and you're looking up at people who are really inspiring, and you're taking your inspiration from them. So who is inspiring you right now?
There's so many people. I mean, I of course there's the big role models, right? I'm not gonna go into that, but I'm so humble in that, because I think I find inspiration from everybody, and I tried. One thing that is very useful for myself is when I go to bed every night, I actually look at the day once again, usually to extend happiness, right? Because happiness it goes quick, and when you have great things, even if it's a small thing, revisiting again, you should consider to skip that. But then also I think about the things I learned from the people I have interacted with, right? So I usually get a lot of positive things, from many people I have interacted during the course of the day. But then if I look at figures, I'm very, very impressed by Michelle Obama, by the way. I mean, it's one of those women that inspires me, and that I would love she will apply to be a president of the United States. But again, there's very, common day-to-day people that I also get a ton of inspiration by. I have a person here working with us and helping us that is one of my models. She left Bolivia many years ago. She has 5 kids, and she has fought so hard to keep this family ongoing. I kiss her and hug her so many times in the day, because is a super smart person that if should have had the opportunity for education, it would be already president of the United States. So it's easy to find inspiration. You just need to look for it.
That's really interesting. And you spoke a lot about your team and about what you're doing right now, and this whole thing that you're building. 2021 is kind of one of those years where, you know, we've had a crazy 2020, right? And so building and growing a startup, fundraising, taking this product to market, doing all these things that you're doing right now, it must be super challenging. But what are you looking forward to in terms of like milestones that you're looking to hit in 2021?
Yeah, it is very simple. This year is going to be the first time graphene is going to be in a human brain safely, right? So this is what the whole team is getting to. We want to make a big contribution to the neurotechnology ecosystem, and we believe that new materials will actually be a way to actually do so. And graphene is being sufficiently researched in the last 10 years to actually be ready for such a step. So this is our focus for this year.
Mm-hmm. And so it's a great time to be joining, right, while you're hitting these milestones and laying these foundations. What about kind of you personally? So, you know, do you also set personal milestones that you want to be hitting in 2021? Or
yes. I go a little bit with the flow in my life because I also learn to deal with what it comes, right? And I think the secret of happiness is low expectations. I don't have low expectations. I have actually high expectations, and that's why sometimes I'm disappointed. But I'm trying to manage how I live my life and deal with whatever it comes, right? However, for instance, this year I want to listen more and write more, reflect more. And this is a weekly reminder on Mondays on my calendar. So I have there listen more. I think to be able to think better, listening more, especially when I have this kind of team, diverse, inquisitive, I should listen a lot. And that's why it's a reminder. So this one for me is big. Because again, we are going fast, all these Zooms. I want to really pause and listen.
That's such an interesting kind of goal to have. But I guess like you learn so much by listening, right? So when you're talking, you're not learning. But when you listen, that's when you're learning from all these different perspectives. What about kind of like more long term, the big question around legacy? What's the legacy that you want to leave on the world?
Yeah, I also thought about that a lot in my life because life is a journey. You don't know when it's going to end, and you want to do as much as you can in case that moment arrives. So the first thing is to build confidence and power in the people that is around me, right? And of course, I have a special mission with women, just because I observe women being a lot less, a lot less confident actually in exploiting their magnificent capabilities, right? But also my kids. I mean, everyone that is around me. I want to transfer my energy and positiveness, and I want to help them to be confident and really think that nothing is impossible, right? And whatever they are meant to do or want, that they really pursue, right? Many people just get stuck on the idea, but they never get to make it, right? So it's about really pushing all these people around to actually make it, right? Whatever the outcome is, that will come later, right? And it will always be a learning. So always enriching, even if it's negative. And then, of course, within my domain is really making a significant contribution in healthcare. So leaving this world, and especially healthcare, better than when I was born, right? Or during my lifetime. Trying to fill those gaps that I deem important and make a big contribution towards those patients that need therapies like the ones we're building.
That's a really powerful purpose to have, and you're definitely making the moves towards it with what you're doing, you know, and what I know about you. So Carola, thank you so much for your time. It was a really interesting discussion, and so interesting to learn about your journey and the formula to building winning teams. And I hope all the listeners enjoyed the session. I know you're really active on LinkedIn, so I would encourage everybody to follow you. You post loads of really inspiring stuff. So I'm one of your followers as well. So I really recommend to everybody to follow Carolina Aguilar and check out what INBRAIN Neuroelectronics are doing, because it's a super exciting time for them right now. So thank you.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. You are definitely an inspiring woman, and I'm very happy to have met you and be here. Also, you know, trying to recruit incredible people to join the ambition and the transformation in healthcare. So thank you also for your help.
Well, that's all we've got time for today. So everybody, give it a like, give it a thumbs up, write your comments below, reach out to us directly and let us know what you think. And I will join you another time for another session of Career Diaries by Elamed. Thanks, Carolina. Take care.